Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So I came across this video a few days ago, and I definitely wanted to discuss it because, again, when I find sources or things that I've already discussed on the blog since 2011 is something that I want to bring to my viewers and my subscribers because it just reiterates, everything that I talk about. So today's video is called Psychologist Dena Souza. She says, patients cry seeing a Black woman psychologist because finally someone will understand. So anyway, I think I'm going to make this kind of a short video. I'm just going to go over a few things, talk about what this young lady said, and then, of course, give some references to some of the links of past articles that I've done at blackbraziltoday.com. So before I get into this, definitely like this video, share this video, so consider subscribing to the channel. Click on the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into the material for today. So this is the psychologist, Dena Souza. After I looked at a few videos that I saw her on and I looked at her Instagram page, I realized, I remember this young lady because of the circles that I was rolling in Sao Paulo when I was living there. And I looked at a number of her pictures, like, wow, I remember meeting her because, the circle of Black women that I knew in Sao Paulo in those years, I just ran across a lot of talented, not only Black women, but also Black men at the time. So this is actually her Instagram profile, Dena.Souza. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know her very well. I only met her a couple of times. I think I met her, I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but it's one of those neighborhoods that's really famous. It has a long history in Black Sao Paulo. I can't even think of what the name of that neighborhood was because I remember, I stayed there for about 3 weeks. I think this was probably in about 2010, maybe. And so I'm not saying I know this young lady very well. I just remember that I did meet her a few times because, like I said, she was part of the circle that I was rolling in at the time. Anyway, so what she had to say in this short video has to do with really Brazil's decades-long dismissal of racial issues. As we know, Brazil has always denied that racial confrontation, racial differences exist. The argument has always been Brazil is a country that never had any legalized segregation. We never had a one-drop rule. Everybody mixes here, so how can we have racial problems? And this is something I was just talking about not only yesterday, but in my previous video. People seem to believe that an absence of legalized laws or mandates dictate how society interacts. Just like with the social and the service elevator discussion that I've talked a lot about, how people automatically assume that in nice apartments, if Black people are coming into that apartment, they're supposed to go on the service elevator to say they're people who are there to serve the would-be white residents. Any Black person coming into a nice apartment, you must be the maid, the help, the cook, the cleaning lady, or somebody else who provides those type of services. It's not written in law that Black people are supposed to take those elevators, but the assumption by society says so. So you don't need legal mandates for society to respect and follow the social norm. Somebody commented on the video that I posted a few days ago, just showing that Brazil does have a one-drop rule or hypo descent law on its books. The guy comes onto the blog or onto the YouTube channel and just says, well, look, we never enforce those laws like you did in the United States. I'm like, you don't need a law to carry out how the society thinks and how the society acts. You don't need that at all. The behavior of the people itself is good enough to mandate and control how society interacts. When you see Black people being forced into a certain elevator, when you see Black people being dismissed for living in a luxurious apartment building without people reacting, like, what are you doing here? When Black people are asked how they can afford a certain car, there's no law that says that. But society says that how can this person be Black and have this? How can this person be Black and be here? So you don't need a law that segregates when the people themselves have this in their minds. Black people are not supposed to be here. Okay. So in the case of what I found to be a hypo descent law or rule in Brazil that dictated that in social, church, and civil institutions and military institutions, people to get in high ranking positions in those institutions, they had to show that they were clean of African ancestry all the way back to 4 generations. Now, I'm not saying Brazil set that where everybody knows that. I would say 99% of Brazilians probably don't even know that. But the point is, society still follows that dictate. You know, whether you call the person black or mulatto or whatever, you still see, okay, this person is of visible African ancestry. They don't belong here. You don't need a legal mandate for people to respect that. You know, I just wanted to address that. Then the idea that when people talk about how they feel like they've been discriminated against because they are black, people have for decades just dismissed this as that's all in your head. That doesn't exist. Even black parents for many decades, when their kids would come home crying about something racist that happened to them in school, and black parents didn't know how to deal with it. It's in your head. Oh, those people are foolish or whatever. This is something that's going on for decades. It's only been in the last decade or two that black Brazilians on a mass level have been pushing back against this narrative. Okay. The necessity of having black professionals and collectives is something that I'm going to talk about later on in this video, because as black Brazilians more and more came to the understanding, like, no, we do have some very strong racism, and maybe just as racist as any other society. We have to deal with this as a group. So then people, as black Brazilians started climbing the ladder and having to have access to better jobs, middle class incomes, middle class neighborhoods, and just positions that they weren't allowed just as close as the 1990s and the early 2000s. Now there are enough Afro-Brazilians moving into these positions where they feel like they need to create collectives. We have to be able to deal with this as a collective because black people are experiencing these problems as a collective. So I want to make it clear that I'm not here because people often dismiss these accusations as what they call me, me, me. It means whining. Oh, you're playing the victim role. You know, somebody came on the channel a couple of days ago and says, stop the race hustling business. I'm like, race hustling business? That's kind of funny. I'm not a person who looks at everything through a lens of racism, but at the same time, I'm not going to dismiss what people feel at the same time. There is a point when people can go overboard believing that everything is racism. I can't subscribe to that, but I also can't dismiss everyday things that happen in Brazil. There was just an incident a few days ago. I think it was in Rio de Janeiro. I think it was might have been a samba performance or something. And these two white Brazilians started imitating monkeys, dancing and making noises of a monkey. And we know that in Brazil, the favorite way of insulting visibly black people is to imitate a monkey or just flat out call somebody a monkey. That's not something I'm making up. Anyway, let me get into the video by Dena Souza, and then I'm going to just explore a little bit more what she's talking about. So for now, let me just overdub what she had to say. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I also work in an institution, and in both spaces, I observe a very significant number of black women who come to seek care. I remember there was a woman I attended some time ago. She told me, I'm crying not because of the problems I'm experiencing and that I would like to talk to you about, but I'm crying because I'm thrilled to see a black woman in this place, in this space, tending to me, Finally, someone will understand what I said. So anyway, that's what she had to say. It was a real brief video, and I just wanted to talk about that because, as I've said, Brazil has ignored this for years, and people go to seek clinical help, psychological help, and be attended to by white Brazilian psychologists who will immediately dismiss their concerns as if, oh, that problem doesn't exist. And whatever demographic somebody fills out, or whatever demographic they fit in, they're always going to feel more comfortable with people who can identify with their issues. So it could be a woman who identifies more with a woman. It could be, say, somebody in the United States who's from somewhere in Latin America. Maybe they feel more comfortable talking to a person who's from Latin America or who speaks Spanish, right? A Brazilian in the United States, maybe they feel more comfortable talking to a Brazilian as their experience as a Brazilian immigrant in the United States. It's the same thing with Black folks. Sometimes they want to identify, they want to connect with a person who identifies with who they are so that they can have an idea that this person understands a little bit more than somebody who is not Black. So basically, that's what she's saying here. So we're seeing more and more cases of people requesting that they be tended to by people who might have something in common with them, so that they don't have to feel like their views are being dismissed. So this article I did from 2021 says, after experiencing traumas and sessions with white therapists, more Black Brazilians seek psychologists of the same color. Okay. They just feel like they were getting nowhere talking to white psychologists. Okay. When consulting with white psychologists, many pretos and pardos, or Blacks and browns, report having their pains minimized or disregarded. Psychologists rarely receive academic training on ethnic, racial issues, which can have a negative effect on the patient's mental health. To seek psychological assistance for the first time or to change therapists, the tip is for the person to establish what their personal criteria are. Okay, what else do we have here? I just want to go through a couple of these articles that speak to this issue. Racism generates anxiety, insecurity, and deep anguish. The importance of Black professionals caring for the mental health of those oppressed by racism. Okay, this is the Instituto AMA. I did an article about them, this organization, some time ago. One of the first things that they pointed out here, they made reference to this book called Tornar-se Negro by a psychologist, Black Afro-Brazilian psychologist named Neuza Santos Souza. She died some years ago. But her book, to me, which means Becoming Black, is somewhere equal to maybe the classic book by Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Masks. Because it was a short book. I think it's less than 200 pages, but she did an analysis. She talked to several subjects and interviewed a lot of people in Brazil, just talking about how they feel being Black. What is your experience living in Brazil? And these people just poured out their hearts, talking about how they felt being Black in Brazilian society. I've done a lot of articles on that. What is it to be Black in Brazil? So the book Becoming Black from 1983 brings the author's study of the emotional life of Black people in Brazil. Santos reflected on how the denial of one's culture and one's own body affects the subjectivity of Black people. Knowing yourself to be Black is to live the experience of having been massacred in your identity, confused in your expectations, subjected to demands, compelled to alienated expectations, which was explained by, who was this that I'm talking about? Let me see. Psychologist Maria Lucia da Silva. She is the founder of Ama Psyche and Negritude, which means Ama Psyche and Negritude Institute. And she gives clues about what this becoming Black quoted by Santos means. We are not born Black, we become Black to the measure that we can make a reading of our trajectory through the experiences of discrimination experienced. Okay. So this is what this is all about. This is why Dena Souza is saying Black people are looking. I had another article, a video that talked about how a woman wanted to take a picture with I can't remember this guy's name now, but this Black doctor in Rio de Janeiro, his patient, he ended up going on and becoming famous through the Big Brother Brazil reality show. But Fred Nicasio, that's his name. He had a patient wanted to take a picture with him because she had never been tended to by a Black doctor. And then that blew up all over the internet. Next thing you know, Fred was famous. He ended up going on Big Brother Brazil and became even more famous. There's another article from 2019, Afro therapists because they prefer therapy with Black psychologists. Okay. Let's see. This is Talita Ramos de Oliveira Ignacio da Silva. Let's see. Afro therapists because they prefer therapy with Black psychologists. She understands my experiences and knows what it is to be a Black woman in society. I think it's very important to have this racial and gender perspective, explains fashion designer Thalita Ramos de Oliveira Ignacio da Silva, who has been seen by a Black psychologist for 3 years in Sao Paulo. She won't think I'm victimizing myself, which is one of the main complaints that Black people have when they go to see a psychologist, because the white psychologist will say, you're playing the victim role. They don't even want to hear the issues that they feel like they may be going through simply because of how Brazilian society treats Black people. Okay. Debate on the world of Black psychologists, obstacles for Afro-Brazilians entering the profession, Blackness as class identity and job market inequality. So then this is the challenge of just being a Black psychologist in Brazil. I read in this article that people often feel like, the world of psychology and being a psychologist is not something that's welcome for Black people. Brazil has persons with a white appearance in Brazil have dominated these positions for so long that a lot of Black people come to the view that this is not an area I can study because it's not made for me, which is why at this point we see a lot of these collectives popping up for whatever Black Brazilians feel like they've been like underrepresented. When there's enough Black people entering into these particular genres, then they start forming collectives because they need to support each other. So 2018 collective, the Black collective, Coletivo Preto, which means Black collective, is a theater group composed of 4 Black actors, is bringing a fresh perspective of Black art to stages in Rio de Janeiro. Negrex Collective, the first collective of Black doctors in Brazil. Present Black Parents, a collective uses internet to redeem ancestral values. So these are just some collective of Black authors who've been ignored for years in Brazil. The Blaction Collective organization denounces the use of blackface and the term jungle in an ad in the city of Porto Alegre, the capital city of Rio Grande do Sul. So we see now that a lot of Black Brazilians are finding the necessity of forming collectives so that they can look out for other Black people. In Rio de Janeiro, a group formed by 5 Black women doctors opens their own clinic. So this speaks volumes to what Dena Souza was talking about in the video that I just overdubbed. It's not something that's playing the victim. You have to meet people where they are, and the concerns that people have can't just necessarily be dismissed. I'm one to say, okay, we have to narrow down what the specific problem is. We can't always just say the first thing is racism, but at the same time, we can't dismiss it. So this is all I wanted to present in today's video, because her short video is something that just caught my eye, because this is a conversation that's getting bigger and bigger in Brazil. So let's start a conversation on this. What did you think about what she had to say? Drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video, consider sharing this video, subscribe to the channel, and definitely click on the notification bell so that you'll know when I put up a new video. And with that said, I'm going to end this video right now and ask that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.